Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. We are here to conduct a simple symposium about a certain topic. But first, let us educate ourselves what is the meaning of symposium. Symposium is a series of talks tackling about different subtopics coming from a general topic. And for today's discussion, we would like to address this topic, probably a quite famous one, and it is all about gender inequality. Yep, right? A big talk until now. And because of that, without any further ado, let's start with our first speaker.
Even if you are being judged, every time we hear gender inequality, the thoughts of gaps between male and female pop up in our minds. In everything, there's always people who judge our ability by our genders. Some of us said she's not suitable for this job because she's a female, even though she has the ability to do that certain job. Now, we can see that gender become the gaps that prevent and limit us to attain and show what our talents and abilities. But even if you are being judged, there's still a way to prove and show yourself. Even if this job is suitable for males, it doesn't mean that female cannot do that job. We can see that the most affected part in this discrimination and judgment are the females in our society. Some of us said that males are more powerful than the females. That's why in terms of applying jobs or work and even in our homes and houses, the male is the one leading the family and the head of it. But now in the Philippines, the government passed a Republic Act for Women's Rights, and it's called Magna Carta for Women, RA 9710. Magna Carta for Women, RA 9710, is the comprehensive women's human rights law that seeks to eliminate discrimination against women by recognizing, protecting, fulfilling, and promoting the rights of Filipino women, especially those in marginalized sector or powerless. Now, even if you are being judged because of your gender, it doesn't mean you will stop showing and expressing your ability to everyone. Physical body and our thoughts are on how we think in everything, and our abilities are different to each other. But in terms of exposing or showing ourselves to others, gender inequality is not a valid reason to stop and judge us on how powerful and weak we are. It will never define us.
Even if we have different principles and beliefs about gender, we must correct it. Gender inequality is a big issue not just in the Philippines but all over the world. And one of the causes of it is because we have different principles and beliefs about the worth, the strength, the right, and the role of the gender we have. Like a lot of people say, that the woman is low and weak than the man, and they can do what men can do. Because of this belief, many women has been affected and received the consequence that they don't deserve. The discrimination among the women arises. Many women experience violence, sexual harassment, wage gap, and even treatment to their work in our society, and many more that affects their physical, mental, and emotional health. To avoid this inequality, a law about women's rights and many organizations was made. In 1981, Philippines ratified the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, or CEDAW, that is adopted by United Nations General Assembly in 1979. CEDAW is a human rights treaty that lays down governmental obligations on the matters related to any forms of discrimination against women in terms of individual rights and freedom. It aims equality between men and women through the assurance of equal access to and equal opportunities in public life, education, health, and employment. Aside from that, the Philippines also create a legal mandate for gender equality, like the 1987 Philippine Constitution. First is the Section 14, Article 2 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution provides that the state recognize the role of the woman in nations building and shall ensure the fundamental equality before the law of women and men. Second is the Section 4, Article 3 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution. No law shall be passed abridging the freedom of speech, of expression, or of the press, or the rights of the people to peaceably assemble and petition the government for redress of grievances. Then, the enactment of Republic Act number 9710, RA 9710, or the Magna Carta of Women, fulfills the commitment of the government to the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women or CEDAW. This act categorically defines discrimination against women. This is also a comprehensive law that upholds and protects human rights of women in all spheres. It is not the end, because many organizations had been made and making action for gender equality, not just here in the Philippines, but all over the world. Because of this law and organization that empowers women, the discrimination had been lessened and many principles and beliefs had been changed. Principles are very much personal, and it is very opinionated, but as the time goes by, we should not seek for the comfort of the words that everyone will agree in everything that we say. Rather, let's seek for the truth, for the comfort that will benefit not just you, not just me, but rather every one of us.
Even if there's a lot of gender-based violence cases, gender-based violence is one of the most notable human rights violations around the world. It includes physical, psychological, and sexual abuse. It is mostly inflicted on women. However, men can also experience this kind of violence. So what are the causes and effects of gender-based violence? The first one is it happens because of the discriminatory cultural beliefs that describe men as aggressive, powerful, and controlling while women are powerless. So mostly men use the weakness of women to do bad things because they know that women can't do anything. Another cause is economic factor. Women have lack of education and job opportunities that can lead to the victim being dependent on the abuser. And the main cause of this problem is the perpetrator, him or herself. A person who has been affected by gender-based violence is never responsible for the perpetrator's action, so stop victim blaming. The effects of gender-based violence are unwanted pregnancies, sexually transmitted infections, injuries, and even death. Even though gender-based violence is still prevalent in the 21st century, there are a lot of laws that address the problem that aim to protect all gender. In our country, there are laws like RA 9262, which is the Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children Act of 2004, RA 7877, or the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act of 1995, RA 9208, or the Anti-Trafficking in Person Act of 2003. These are just some of the laws to ensure the protection and justice for the victims. So what are the solutions, or how can we prevent gender-based violence? The best prevention is education. educate ourselves about this kind of issue so that we will know what we can do when we experience it or how can we help other victims. We should stand up for our rights, bring awareness to everyone, and let's help each other. To know and to be well educated that this violence is obviously not good for us. Instead of pointing one's weakness, we should empower each one of us. Let's stand up and fight gender inequality.
Hi guys! And by the way, it's Francesca. And we're down to our last topic for this symposium, number 4. Even if you are not being recognized. Gender inequality proves us that there will be things we cannot force. That some are just born that way. As my colleague said, it shows different angles, faces, and opinion about how gender inequality is a very big deal for us, that it is a huge factor for who we are and who we became. One of our nature as a human is that the attention we want. We always seek for approval, for validity, and most of all for recognition. Way back before modernization, things are pretty tough for all of the people living in that era. I don't want to give the upper hand and just focus on the women, but also on the side of the men. I would like to see that both parties have points. And yes, I am a woman, but no one should dominate the world just because someone says so. This is where gender inequality takes place. Sometimes we forget to recognize each other's potential because we only focus on one side. And so, within the society, we tend to romanticize and look at it plainly without even knowing the context of it. And as the world revolves around civilization and globalization, government issued some big change. Different laws concerning these things. As what the other speakers told, these things will help us out somehow to be recognized, to be known, and to stand up. May it be the work, profession, legal authorization, space taken, color coding, food, places, events, education, politics, education, games, entertainment, shows, pictures, arts, visual representations, performances, household chores, relationship, and one's true self. Every one of us should be recognized regardless of our gender. Gender should never be the base of something because it is a thing we all possess, and we should learn how to deal with it with equity and equality. And that will be all. Thank you very much for listening to our simple symposium, and I hope you'd learn a lot.